Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the ASMR stream. I am Validity, as some of you know, and today we're gonna be. Good morning, Miss Tori. You requested an aura, so I'm gonna go ahead and oblige with that. Ara. It's hard because I had to talk quietly. Not close enough. Not close enough. Oh, I'm eating the microphone, so I don't know how much closer I could actually be. Lips on the phone, my lips are basically on the phone, on the microphone. Bofi, you're funny. But welcome in, everybody. So I have a poll that's up right now, and the poll is basically to tell me, like, which fanfiction would you like me to read today? That's basically what I'm going to do, is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to read. We can talk a little bit in between. Oh yeah, Joey Bamboozle, thank you so much for the follow. Paprika VT, thank you so much for the follow. So it looks like my first original light novel is winning. Hello, welcome into the channel. Good morning. You're gonna be cooking breakfast? What are you gonna be cooking? But good morning, everybody. So if you'd like to vote, go ahead and vote. All of the fan fictions were written by me. So this is my actual. These are all written by Val herself. Oh, I'm getting a son and a daddy? Oh gosh. Well, I appreciate you coming in. To say hello. I kind of like the fact that I'm doing this in the morning because then my voice is a little deeper, a little raspier, a little sexier, if you will. Looks like my original light novel might be the one that ends up winning, which is super interesting to me. So all my stories can be found on Wattpad, by the way. Kid tested, father improved. So funny, Bofi, so funny. Well, dang, I wasn't prepared to actually show you guys my original light novel. But I guess here we are. We're going to be crossing that precipice. And then after, looks like it's going to be Kylo Ren, which is fine. If you hear munching and crunching, that's my dogs. They're eating their breakfast. Unlike their mom. Yuchi, hey. It's been a long time. This actually, Dr. Diabetes, I'm glad you're here. This whole idea was actually brought to light by Dr. Diabetes, who's requested the stream. So, yeah, it always seems to work out that way, doesn't it, Yuchi? It always seems to work out that way. Well, shit. I guess my My first original light novel is the one that won. Wow, I'm surprised. All right. Well, this is kind of exciting. So, with this light novel, I am currently working on it. It's not finished yet, but I am working at it. I got 27 chapters so far, so pretty decent amount, and I like the idea. But I just don't have time to finish it right now, so I will read up till I can, and then we'll switch over to the Kylo Ren one. Go back to the beginning, actually. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it ends, you know? I haven't really flushed out all the haven't fleshed out all the details yet. So we will see. I think from where I can see, I feel like it would be a series, but this is definitely the first arc. What's that word count? I have no idea, to be honest with you. It's pretty long. Like, some chapters are longer than others. Some chapters you can get through fairly quickly. Other chapters it takes a little while. But I mean, they're all under about 10 minutes a chapter. About 10 minutes a chapter or so. I don't know what happened there. Sorry for that visual disturbance. And I unfortunately have to have my glasses on today, so if my eyes start to go wonky, you know why. I have to have my glasses on. Yes, I do wear glasses. Are they reading glasses? No, but they're actually, I need them to see. So this one is called The Phoenix's Tale, and that's all I'm gonna say. Grandma's blind. Fuck you, Dr. Diabetes. Fuck you. Alright. So we have The Phoenix's Tale. I started writing this last summer, and I don't know, I really fell in love with the story, and I just haven't had the time to finish it, so we'll just go ahead and get into it. Let me do this. Let me side by side this, that way I don't have to hurt my neck to reach over so much to see the chat. Well, I'm just here to oblige. There have been many times in my life that I knew I was different than everyone else. When I was about 6 years old, I was playing on the playground at my local park. My mom turned away to talk to her friend, and before she knew it, I had walked off into the woods alone. I remember feeling curious, but never scared. As my mom started panicking, I walked out of the woods being led by groups of birds, squirrels, and even snakes. I always had a connection to the forest and to nature. Yeah, this is my origin story, guys. Little did you know. Just kidding. No, it's not. And as pictures come up, I will also show you the pictures that I included in my Wattpad that I have. I also have a question. Do you guys want to see like the story as I'm reading it off of Wattpad, or do you like this, like where I'm just in my office with you alone? Because I can do either. I'll continue. When I was 13, I came home sad from school. A boy at school that I liked called me fat and ugly, and it hurt me a lot. When I arrived home and started crying, retelling my mom what had happened, it began a thunderstorm. From then on out, it always seemed to rain when I was sad. When I was 18, I helped out my mom in her rose garden. It was wintertime, and all the roses had died off for the season. I took off my gardening gloves and reached out to pull out an especially deep-rooted rose stem. My fingers missed the stem and tightly wrapped around an incredibly sharp thorn. As I clamped down, I could instantly feel a warm rush as droplets of blood started dripping from my finger. A droplet landed on the icy wet ground at the base of the stem. Before I knew it, the dead decaying rose plant started blooming a crimson red flower. My mother and I were stunned at the miracle that had occurred. My whole life I had heard stories and fairy tales about magic. I guess deep down, I always kind of knew that I was different, that I was a witch. I can do on the screen, that's fine. What we'll do is we'll move over here. Let me just make sure everything's lined up good. In fact, let me actually... That'll be good. I hope you guys can see that. Most young witches and wizards know they have magical abilities around puberty, if not before that. They usually come from magical families. They get an invitation from the principal and attend school specifically to enhance and train their magic. Most students start learning magic around the age of 13. I, however, managed to slip under the radar of the magical community until I was 26. I never attended a magic middle or high school. I grew up semi-normal, went to a school at a normal human middle school and a normal human high school. I had normal friends, normal boyfriends, even worked a normal job. But that changed when I was approached by a professor at the Northeastern Community College for Witches and Wizards. Oh, there you go. Now you can see the pictures. I woke up early that day as I needed to open the store I work in. I got out of bed and placed my feet on the cold hardwood floor. I leaned over and grabbed my phone to check if there were any messages. I started scrolling past the happy birthday messages to see if he might have reached out to me. I had just broken up with my boyfriend a few days before my birthday. I tried to surprise him one night at his apartment, opened the door, and saw him there with another girl. I never in my life had felt angrier and embarrassed at the same time. Even though he was completely in the wrong, I still hoped maybe we could fix it. But him not even texting me on my birthday was a definitive sign it was over. I flopped backward on my bed and sighed. Ding! I received a new text message. I quickly got back up and opened my phone, hoping it was him. Hello, Benjamin. Welcome in. Welcome in. In fact, let me make sure that when there's ads that run, they'll be quiet. Where are you? You were supposed to open the store. My eyes widened as I read the text from my manager. Shit, I said as I looked at the time. I was supposed to wake up 2 hours ago. I quickly slid on a pair of jeans crumpled up next to my bed. I didn't even bother changing my shirt or doing my hair. I grabbed my keys and backpack and ran to my car. What's worse is, I worked over 30 minutes away from my apartment, so no matter what, I was screwed. Kissabum, thank you so much for the follow. The wind started to pick up quite heavily as I drove through traffic trying to get to work. Finally, after what seemed like a torturous amount of time, I parked outside of the Star Valley Mall. I should remember to mute that instead of turn it back on because I'm sure that's loud for you and I'm sorry. I worked in an average clothing store that happened to be a national branch. It was a place of constant comings and goings, a revolving door of staff and employees. Since I managed to last longer than a year, I was promoted to assistant manager and was currently being trained to become head manager of my department. I have to clear my throat, I'm sorry. Oh, Darb, thank you. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. It was a nice and relatively easy job. Good pay, benefits, and paid time off. Darb, thank you so much for the head pats. It wasn't exactly what I envisioned as a career for myself, but regardless, it allowed me to continue living in my apartment. I guess the hardest part of the job was dealing with snobby customers who looked down on me because of my body type. I couldn't even fit in the clothes that I sold. Many ladies would say to me, "How can I trust your opinion when you can't even wear this?" It hurts every time someone says something like that, but over the years, I've learned to accept that I'm a little unordinary in all categories. As I ran as fast as I could through the mall to get to work. Of course, my store was dead in the center of everything, and it happened to be a packed Saturday afternoon. Just as I was almost at the store, a blinding light hit my eyes. It was probably someone's phone or watch reflecting the light. For a split second, I turned my head and slammed into the back of someone. It was enough to knock me backward and land on my ass. I looked up at who I had just run into. His pure white hair almost blended in with the surrounding light. He was wearing all black and even wore black sunglasses. He was tall and slender. His hair fell over his face. He turned around sharply to see who had run into him. I don't know what he was expecting, but he looked down at me and smiled slightly. He looked down over his sunglasses to reveal his eyes to me. They were crystal blue. I had never seen eyes so intense and soft at the same time. He reached out his hand to me. I snapped out of the trance I was in and started to apologize profusely. "Oh my god, I'm so sorry. Are you alright?" I asked, stumbling over my words. "Here, let me help you." He motioned for me to take his hand. I reached out and put my hand in his. Without any effort at all, he pulled me up off of the floor. "You know, you should be more careful," he said, looking at me through his sunglasses. They were so dark I could see myself in them. "Thanks. Are you sure you're okay?" I asked. "Oh, me? I'm fine. It would take a lot more than that to bring me down," he said to me in a cocky, light-hearted tone. As much as I wanted to make amends with the stranger, I really needed to get to work. I broke his gaze and looked at the floor. "Shit, I'm really sorry, but I need to go," I said and started running past him. He just smiled and put up his hand and to wave, mumbling something under his breath soft enough that I couldn't hear. "I'm sure we'll meet again soon." Gosh, I don't even know if I'll have time to get to the Kylo Ren one. I think this one might take a long time. I think we might have to listen to it all. I could switch over too at some point. So this chapter, what did I call this? Oh, Lady Regalia. I kept running until I got to my store. Almost out of breath, I walked to my apartment and threw my backpack down. I smoothed out my long dark hair and twisted it into a bun. I clocked in and waited for the hellstorm about to happen. Off in the distance, I could hear the clacking of heels on the tile floor. The sound intensified as they got closer. I knew that sound only belonged to one person, my manager. She slinked her way over to where I was standing. She was a formal model, who couldn't cut it in the business, tall, skinny, and beautiful. She was younger than me, only getting the job for her looks and sleeping with our store manager. She folded her arms over her chest, shifting her weight onto one foot. "Mia, where were you?" she asked me in a very annoyed tone. "Jessica, hey, listen, I kind of overslept this morning." "Hi, Christian, thank you so much for the follow." "My alarm clock didn't go off when it was supposed to," I said, scratching the back of my head. "Mia, you're barely holding on by a string. If it was up to me, I would have fired you a long time ago. However, you can sell like nobody's business, and the customers really enjoy having you around," she said disappointingly. Just as Jessica was about to go off on me some more, I have to clear my throat. Hold on. A very refined and well-dressed woman approached us. She was dressed head to toe in white, loose tailored pants, and a beautiful designer blouse. She wore her hair to the side and had a gorgeous vintage cartwheel hat on. Jessica's eyes lit up as all she saw was an opportunity to make money. Just as I was about to speak, Jessica overtook the conversation. "Oh, hello, ma'am. How may I help you today?" she said in an overly sweet and fake tone. "Yes, I'm looking for Mia Hartley," she said, looking directly at me. Jessica was getting visibly frustrated. "Well, whatever you need with Mia, she's not here right now, and I would be happy to assist you in any way possible," she said to the woman. The elegant woman smiled at Jessica and proceeded to walk in my direction. "What about you, dear? Do you know where I can find Mia?" I tried to speak again, but was cut off by Jessica. "Ma'am, as I said before, I can help you," Jessica said. The woman sharply turned to her and glared. "Yes, I think you can help me, dear," she said as she flicked her fingers around her hand. "You can help me by shutting that mouth of yours." Jessica tried to speak but was unable. She tried to talk and nothing was coming out. She grabbed her own throat and looked at the beautiful woman. Jessica couldn't believe what was happening and ran off, tail tucked between her legs. I had to admit it was good to see Jessica suffer, but I still don't understand what the woman had done to her. The classy woman turned again in my direction and walked up to me. She was much taller than I thought, and her presence was a little intimidating. She slid her white silk gloves off her hands and set them on my counter. "Mia, I presume?" she asked me. I came closer to her, not exactly sure what would happen. Yes, ma'am. How can I help you?" I asked genuinely. "Give me your hand, please," she asked. I placed my hand palm side up onto hers. I was shocked by how cold her skin was. She reached on top of her hand and plucked a feather from her hat. Without hesitation, she proceeded to take the point of the feather and prick my finger. I instantly retracted my hand because of the pain. "Ow!" I yelled. I put my finger in my mouth out of habit. I watched as the woman took the end of the feather with my blood on it, and she tasted it. I could see her trying to coat her palate with the blood I had provided. She swallowed, and her curious face turned into satisfaction. Sorry, there will be grammatical and spelling errors throughout this, so I do apologize. She took a silk cloth from her handbag and dotted the corners of her mouth, careful not to smudge her red lipstick. "Sorry, dear, just had to make sure. Could never be too careful," she said. I retaliated in anger. "Hey, lady, what was that all about?" I asked angrily. Of course, how very rude of me. I am Lady Regalia Morningstar." "Very nice to meet you, Mia," she said, curtsying at me. This lady acted like she was right out of a 1920s movie. "What do you want with me?" I asked, annoyed. "Tell me, dear. Have you always felt different? She asked. No different than most, I guess, I replied. Sorry, let me rephrase that question. Have you ever had anything happen to you that you couldn't explain? She asked curiously. Listen, lady, is this some sort of joke or something? I asked, hoping it would be a joke. I reached for the water bottle I brought on the side of the counter. Just as I unscrewed the cap to take a drink, Lady Regalia snatched it from my hands and proceeded to try to get me wet by throwing the water at me. I held up my hands to protect myself from getting wet, but nothing happened. My hands weren't wet, and neither was I. I moved my hands slowly away from my face and looked at Lady Regalia. The water was suspended in the air, floating as though it was in space. I couldn't comprehend what happened. Regalia looked at me and the suspended water. I reached out my hand to touch the floating water, and when I did, the water fell straight down onto the counter. I jumped back a bit in surprise. What are you? I asked her. My dear, it is you that should be answering that question, she said with a big smile. She was absolutely delighted by my power. Then I asked her a question that would change my life forever. What am I? She leaned in closer as if to whisper to me. You, my dear, are descended from a long line of witches. Witches? I asked. Yes, witches. But we aren't like how most humans portray us, with wands and brewing potions. Yes, you can have a wand, but most of our spellcasting doesn't require an object such as a wand. Anyway, getting off the subject here, I would formally like to invite you to study at one of our only 4 magic community colleges throughout the United States, the Northeastern Community College for Witches and Wizards, she said as she handed me a letter. I opened it right away. To Miss Mia Hartley, we would like to formally invite you to study at our college. We understand you are new to learning about your powers and have previously not attended magic schools prior. Fear not, as you are the perfect candidate for a Phoenix Scholarship. With this scholarship, you would have everything provided to you, room and board, meals, transportation, a familiar, and potentially a mentor. Someone with as much untapped potential cannot go to waste. We will see you promptly within 1 day of you reading this letter. Future instructions to follow should you accept. Kara Brightwood, Principal of NCCWW. I just have to take tiny little breaks in between each chapter. Okay, get out of here. Get out of here. Run. Run quickly. Run. Run away. Love you too, Kay. Oh, see? Here's an ad. But I'm glad that I have the thing taken off. Alright, this chapter is called Acceptance. I looked up from my letter after finishing it. Lady Regalia was eagerly awaiting my response. This is a joke, right? I asked. Accept the offer or don't. It doesn't matter to me if you decide to lose your powers, she said, knowing it would spark my interest. What do you mean, lose my powers? A young witcher wizard that does not complete training in magic school will inevitably lose their powers forever around the age of 30. It's more of a use it or lose it situation, she said. So you're telling me, if I don't go to this community college, I'll lose whatever powers I may or may not have? My dear, it's not a question of if, but when. It could be next year or the year after. Everyone is different. Think of it as witch menopause, she said, giggling, slightly covering her mouth. So what's the catch? I asked. No catch. Since you're already an adult, there are no restrictions between you and the non-magic realms. You can come and go as you please, but in certain spells and magics are not prohibited. So what do you say? She asked with a smile. My whole life had led up to that moment. This is my chance to finally find out what I am. Yes, I started to say. I will accept. Good. I'm so glad you'll be joining us this semester. You never told me what you do, I asked. Me? Very kind of you to ask. I'm currently the professor for the Charms course. Hope you'll take my class in the near future. Thanks, I will keep that in mind. Alright, my dear. Be on the lookout for a trunk to be delivered to you soon. It will give you instructions on how to get to the college, she said. She looked down at her wrist, though there was no wristwatch to be seen. Oh, would you look at the time? I really must be going now. Lovely to meet you, Mia, and I hope to see you soon, she said as she started to walk away. Ta-ta. She waved in a hazy fog. She slowly disappeared. It took me a few minutes to process what had just happened. As I thought Lady Regalia was far away somewhere, she just teleported to the other part of the mall. The fog built up, and someone was waiting for her to step out of it. Ta-ta, he could hear her say as she finally stepped through. She was face to face with the same handsome man I had ran into earlier. What did she say? He asked her. What do you think? She said as she made a long cigarette holder appear. She began to light a cigarette and place it on the end of the holder, and took a puff. You know you're not really supposed to smoke indoors anymore, he said to her. She inhaled deeply and blew the smoke into his face gently. What makes you think I care about the health of these mortals anyway? Their existence is so limited, and besides, have you forgotten our deal, Koji dear? She said to him in a seductive way. Just imagine how sweet her blood would taste, she said, chuckling. Come now, I must get back to the college to prepare, she said as she turned her back to him. If he didn't need her, he would have definitely done away with Lady Regalia. Okay, this is called The Traveler's Trunk. How can this happen to me, I thought. So many thoughts were spiraling in my mind, I couldn't settle down on thinking one coherent thing. Suddenly I heard heels clacking in my direction. Jessica was coming back. I knew for sure I was probably going to get fired and braced myself for the dumpster fire about to happen. Hey, Mia, she said, smiling. I looked at her strangely. Jessica, are you alright? I asked. Perfectly fine. Thanks for asking, bestie, she smiled. Bestie? Stop, Mia, you're so funny. Come on now, you know we've been friends for a long time now. Whatever was happening, I was just rolling with it. Listen, the boss wanted me to tell you that he's paying for you to go on a vacation. Something about too many hard workers not being rewarded or something like that. Anyways, effective immediately, you're on paid vacation. For how long? I asked. Yeah, you didn't say exactly. No matter. Time to get your things and get moving, girly, she said. Part of me was still thinking that it was still an elaborate joke, but I got my things and started walking towards the front of the store. Suddenly, I heard thunderous applause erupting from around me. Slowly, some of my coworkers started to gather near me as if to see me off. They were all smiling and happy as they clapped for me. Congrats, Mia, one of my coworkers said. He raised his hand up. Oh, I missed the paragraph. As I quickly walked past them, I noticed the man dressed in black from before. He stood amongst my coworkers, hands in his pockets, watching me. By the time I stopped to look at him, he was gone, almost like a vision. As I entered the main part of the mall, the patrons, young, old, and employees of the mall stopped to cheer me on. I had never had attention like that before. An old woman presented me with a balloon. Then a little girl gave me a teddy bear, and then finally a mall cop gave me a bouquet of roses. As I continued to make my way out of the mall, Koji was watching me from the rafters. Congrats, Mia, he said to himself quietly with a soft smile. He raised his hands up and in a dark mist vanished. By the time I got outside, I was nearly out of breath. I looked down to look at my flowers, but everything had disappeared. Was this what it was like to be a witch and use magic? I patted myself trying to find my car keys, and of course they were always in my front right pocket. I pulled them out and made my way to my car. Despite the crazy wildness of what happened at work, my drive home was completely normal. It was still pretty early in the afternoon, so instead of going to my apartment, I went to my mom's house. "A witch?" she yelled at me, nearly spitting out her coffee. Yeah, I know, it sounds crazy, right? My mom paused for a second to think. "You know, hun, it's really not that crazy at all," she said gently. "To be honest, when you were growing up, unexplainable things would happen all the time. Like one time when you were a little baby, I made cookies and put them in Grandma's cookie jar on top of the fridge. I heard a knock at the door, so I left you in the kitchen. By the time I got back, you had not only retrieved the cookie jar from the top of the fridge, but you were already eating the cookies. No baby could have reached that high in that short amount of time. But I just thought maybe I had put the jar lower than I remembered." "I guess not," she said. "Mom, the lady I spoke to, Lady Regalia, she told me I come from a long line of witches," I started to say. "It's not my family, in case you're wondering. Must be your father," she said. "My father died when I was about 4 years old. My mom told me he died in a car accident, but now it makes me wonder if it could be more than what I thought I was told." "Was Dad's accident really just an accident?" I asked. "Can't say for sure, hun. When your father died, I wasn't even there. He was off somewhere in the Northeast on business. I didn't even get to see his body. They said it was so horrible that they just cremated him at the local mortuary." She said, "Do you know anything about my grandparents?" I asked. Only what I've already told you. I've never met them. I don't even know if they're still alive or not. But I know that they shared the same name as your father." And this is where I messed up. I think I should have done Blackburn, but whatever. No, not Blackburn. Whitethorn. There's tiny little inconsistencies in my story that I'm not picking up on, but I'm making notes of. Not inconsistencies. Little errors, I should say. "They mentioned that I should be expecting a trunk of some kind. It's supposed to help me get to the college," I said. "A trunk?" she asked. "I guess so. That's what I was told anyway." "I've been holding on to something I think you should see," my mom said. She got it from the old stained couch she was sitting on. Mom didn't ever hide anything from me, so I had no idea what she could be bringing out. From a distant hallway, she waddled back and forth as she carried a large box that she held with both hands. When she was close enough to see what she was holding, my eyes widened. It was a dusty brown leather 2-foot by 2-foot trunk. "Mom, what is this?" I asked, completely flabbergasted. "A gift from your father," she said. "Why are you showing this to me now?" I asked. "Here, read this," she said as she handed me a faded envelope. I pulled out the piece of paper inside. Carefully, I unfolded it, delicately enough not to tear it. It was handwritten by my father. "To the love of my life, if you are reading this, then my life has sadly come to an end. For that I must apologize. Though, my dear, I must ask you to carry out one last favor for me. I am leaving this locked trunk and all of its contents to our beautiful daughter, Mia. Only she has the key to unlock it. I must ask that you hide this trunk and this note from her until she is ready. Trust me, you will know when that day comes. To Mia, I hope this trunk allows you to find the answers you're hoping for. I will forever be with you. Love always, Danny. P.S. Light as a feather, yet no man can hold me for long." I looked back up at my mom after reading it. "All this time?" I asked. "I guess this was the moment your father was hoping for." On the trunk were the initials D.W., presumably for my father's name. I noticed no latch or lock. When I tried to open it, it wouldn't budge. It was almost like it was glued shut. "There's no key?" I asked. "Your father said that you would know what to do. I've tried to open it for years," she said. I went back to the letter and scanned it over once more. At the bottom, below his signature, he included a riddle. "Light as a feather, yet no man can hold me," I said, thinking out loud. I let out a large sigh towards the trunk and heard some metal noises coming from inside of it. "What just happened?" I asked. "I don't know, you just breathed out," my mom said. "Breath. The answer is breath," I said. I moved closer to the trunk and let out another big long sigh. The gears inside of the trunk clicked all at the same time, and it unlatched, opening slightly. My mom scooted over to me, also eager to see what was inside. I reached for the top of the trunk and lifted it open fully. What we saw was very disappointing. "Empty?" I said. I looked at my mom. "Why would your father leave you an empty trunk? It certainly never felt empty," she said to me. My curiosity got the better of me. "Maybe there's a false bottom?" I said, reaching into the bottom of the trunk. Suddenly, I felt a strong force pulling down on my hand. I tried to pull away, but I couldn't. All at once, I was near instantly sucked inside of the trunk, the lid shutting and locking tightly. "Mia!" my mom screamed as she watched in horror, unable to do anything. Ooh. I'm gonna take a short water break here. All right. Petunia, the 50s housewife troll. I didn't feel any pain as my body squished to fit inside the trunk. It just felt like the room was spinning. Finally, when the spinning seemed to stop, I was no longer at my mom's house, but standing at the bottom of some stone steps looking at a giant building. I looked down at my right hand as I felt some weight. In my hand was the same trunk I was just sucked into. I looked around to try to figure out where I was. I looked at the entrance to the building and noticed the sign that read Northeastern Community College for Witches and Wizards. I searched to see if anybody was around. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a black crow starting to descend towards the steps of the college. Just before it touched the ground, it transformed into a handsome guy. He wasn't much taller than me and was slim. His skin was as pale as winter snow and had jet black hair. He looked up at me and noticed the trunk I was carrying. He walked right up to me and with an excited look on his face. "Oh my God, is that a vintage traveler's trunk? It's so cool," he said as he tried to grab it from me. I recoiled and pulled the trunk closer to myself. He was slightly disappointed by my actions. "You must be that new girl everyone's talking about," he said, putting his hand on his hip. "How did you know?" I asked. "Girl, the only once in a generation does someone receive the Phoenix Scholarship. I'm quite jealous myself," he said, chuckling. "So you have been enrolled in classes yet? So have you been enrolled in classes yet?" he asked. "No, I actually just got here through the trunk," I said, raising the trunk slightly. "Oh shit. So you just got here, huh? Well, I need to talk to my academic advisor, so why don't you come with? You'll need to go that way anyway to get to the main office," he said, pointing behind him. I was in a new world with no idea what to do. As much as I was a little scared, I proceeded anyway. He grabbed me by the arm and interlocked mine with his, and we walked side by side. He walked me around the foyer of the school. There was lots of space to walk around without feeling too cramped. Over by a tree, a group of students gathered in a circle to watching another student. She was standing in the center of the circle, singing beautifully. Her voice almost seemed otherworldly, as within her own voice was another voice completely in harmony. She opened her palm to reveal a soft blue flame she was holding. As her singing became more intricate, the blue flame grew bigger and twisted around her hand. "Performance magic," he said to me as we walked by. "Anyone with a particular talent can use that to manipulate their magic," he said. "Interesting," I said back. "I'm Corvus, by the way." He looked at me. He said, looking at me. "Mia," I said back with a smile. We continued across the courtyard until we reached the advisor's offices. We walked through the doors together. The inside didn't match the outside at all. It was old, dilapidated, and musty. Cobwebs were in every corner of the walls. In front of us was a desk with no one there. We approached the desk, and I noticed the web-covered bell next to the dusty sign, illuminated by a single candle flame that read, "Please ring for service." Corvus put his finger over the bell and pushed it repeatedly. Suddenly, a hand reached out from the darkness to stop him from continuing to ring the bell. It even scared me. The hand was attached to an ugly, bulbous, wart-infested troll. She was wearing a 50s housewife dress and heels. "Corvus, what do you need now?" she asked in a slow, deep tone. My, Petunia. Did you get your boils excised? Your skin is absolutely glowing," he said, grabbing her hand. She pulled it away. "No need for compliments. Tell me what you need," she said, getting angry. "My friend Mia here is the one receiving the Phoenix Scholarship, and she came to get enrolled," he said, motioning to me. Lean in, please," she said, looking at me. I leaned over the desk slightly, and Petunia also leaned in close. We were merely inches apart, and I could smell her horrible breath. I closed my eyes, unsure what was going to happen. I felt a sharp twinge on my scalp as she plucked a single hair from my head. "Ow," I said, itching my head. I returned to my original position and watched as she took the hair and fed it into a slot attached to her computer. Mia Hartley, age 26, and a first-year student. She asked to verify if her information was correct. "That's me," I said. "Down the hall and to her right. You're looking for Allie, door number 8, she said, pointing behind her. "All right, Mia, I'll catch you later then?" Corvus asked me. "I hope so," I said apprehensively. I walked down the candlelit hallway behind Petunia. I arrived in front of door number 8 that had a nameplate, Allie Fellows Academic Advisor. Touching the doorknob, I breathed out and walked inside. I immediately noticed a sweet smell in the air, almost like cotton candy. The floor was not normal, as it was thick, plushy grass. Around the office were various wildflowers and mushrooms, and at the center was an oak tree that had been twisted into a desk. Suddenly, without knowing where it was coming from, I heard a tiny voice squeak out, "Take off your shoes and leave them by the door, please." It startled me slightly, but I obliged. Taking off my socks and shoes, I placed my feet on the grass-covered floor. It was some of the softest grass I had ever been on. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a ball of white light getting bigger. The ball of light turned into a small, thin woman in a shredded chiffon dress, barefoot, of course. "Did you have an appointment?" she asked me as she walked to the tree, put on a blazer that was hanging off of a tree branch. I'm sorry, I don't have one, I said. That's quite all right, not a problem. Come sit down and tell me what brings you in, she said, motioning to the stump in front of her desk. I sat down and explained who I was. Oh, you're the young lady who got the scholarship. Well, I'm happy to tell you that I am your academic advisor, Allie. Here to answer any and all questions about your stay here with us, she said, perking up a bit. I placed a trunk on her desk. First of all, I don't even understand how I got here. I touched the bottom of this trunk and arrived here. I said, well, first off, your magic sense is pretty keen because that's exactly how you arrived here. A traveler's trunk is designed to travel back and forth between an owner's set location. So how do I get home? I asked. Well, that answer can be more complicated. It will take you to the owner's preset points of location. If one point is here, who knows where the trunk will return you to? So, essentially, it could be bad or it could be good. I see. Well, then I guess I better just sign up for courses then, I said, sighing. Alright, this is my favorite part of the job. What kind of magic do you want to study? She asked me, holding a feather pen in one hand. Well, what kinds are there? I asked. She looked confused at first, and remember I was completely new to the magical world. Oh, I'm sorry. I completely forgot you've never gone to magic school before. Okay, well, you have your magics everyone must learn, like elemental magics, which will teach you the basics of how to use your magic abilities. These are beginner's courses, if you will. Then you must choose specific specialized areas to study. These are more advanced magics, like dimensional and existence magics. However, many students choose to continue advanced elemental studies. A lot depends on what careers you would like to go into. Have you given it any thought? She asked. I didn't know there were career paths with magic, I said. Oh yeah. Most can provide you with satisfaction as well as being compensated. Other careers are more exciting, but then again, I'm a fairy and advising people is kind of our thing, she said with a smile. A fairy? I asked with big doe eyes. Yep, she said. Suddenly her wings popped out from her back. Her wings were absolutely beautiful. They were orange and blue and looked like butterfly wings. As you can see, they tend to be pretty big and distracting, she said as she rocked her shoulders from side to side to pull them back in. I just sat there in silence for a few seconds. First time meeting a fairy, I bet, she said. Yeah, actually, I said, slightly embarrassed. It's alright, I don't mind. Comes with the territory of being a mythical creature. Most of our world is no dangerous than the non-magic world, but I must warn you, witches and wizards can be extremely manipulative and deceptive, she said to me seriously. Does that even mean I could trust someone like Corvus? I thought to myself. Now how about I set you up with this semester's class schedule, a map of the campus, and a key to your residence, she said, handing me the old key. Residence? I questioned. Since you are a legal adult and too old to be in the dorms with the younger students, you receive your own flat. Your father actually left you his, to be more precise, she said. My father? Yes, right before his untimely death, he bought a flat to give to you should you ever choose to attend the college. He was a part-time professor here at the time that he died, she said. I had no idea my father was a part-time professor at the college. My mom always said he sold insurance and was away for much of the year minus summertime. I guess looking back at it now, everything seemed to make more sense. Allie looked back at her computer. Seems you've already met Corvus, which is perfect because he is your familiar. It's what we call students who help new students get settled in. I'll go get him for you, she said, standing up and walking out of the door. sat alone in silence, thinking about everything so far. It seemed surreal to me. It hadn't even been 24 hours, and I learned that I had magical powers, which is real, and my father was one of them. I pinched myself, hoping I would wake up from the dream that I was in. Sadly, nothing changed. Off in the distance, I could hear someone arguing. "No, I don't want to," I could hear Emil's voice say. The door flew open and Corvus came flying at me. "Oh, hi, Mia," Corvus said, looking up at me from the floor. My advisor followed quickly behind him. "Corvus, you have to be a familiar. Your grades are awful," she said, sitting back down at her desk. "Ugh, fine. Only because I actually like this one," he said, looking at me. I don't know why, but his comment hurt a little. I wasn't prepared to feel like an outcast, but I should have expected it. Besides Corvus, she has her own flat. We all know how you hate the dorms, she said, raising her eyebrow, trying to get him to be happy with her decision. "Shall we go?" He asked me with a giant smile. "Sure," I replied. We both got up and started heading towards the door. "Wait, Mia," Allie yelled. "I forgot to mention. We're putting on a career fair tomorrow night. You should come. It might help you to decide what path you want to take. It can also give you a rough idea of the types of careers in the magic world." "Thanks. I'll remember that," I said as I walked out of her office with Corvus. Ooh, spooky. Just gonna take a quick water break. Dark Meadows. We headed out of the academic advising offices and made our way back to the main courtyard. "So where is your apartment?" Corvus asked me. "I'm not sure, but she gave me a map," I said. "Ooh, let me see." He motioned for him to have the map. He scanned it with a curious look. Suddenly his eyes got bigger. "No way," he yelled. I looked at him, wondering what was so exciting. "You have an apartment at Dark Meadows?" he asked. "I guess so. I don't really know much about it," I said back. "Hell yeah," he started to say, raising a winning fist into the air. "That's the professor's part of the campus." "That would make sense since my father was apparently a professor here," I said. "Right on, let's check it out," he said excitedly. "Hey, Ren. Hey, how's it going? Good morning." I smiled and we both walked to the other side of the campus. It was interesting to see the different students practicing their magic. I was still unsure about what I was even capable of. The entire school was draped in a mist-like cloud. Everything was still visible, but it kept an eeriness to everything, giving the school an uneasy feeling. Before I knew it, we had been standing in front of the professor's dorms called Dark Meadows. It's good. Yeah, Steamed Cat, this is actually my story. This is one I've written. Actually, this is my works. Well, I mean, if I had a chance to do an ASMR and it was a reading ASMR, I might as well read something I've written, right? Sure sounds like a really bad retirement home, I said jokingly. In a way, it is. Which apartment is it? Corvus asked. Says lucky number 13, I said. Oh, did we get to 300 on Twitter? Oh, that's awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for getting me to 300 on Twitter. That's awesome. Also, Steam Cat, welcome to the chat. Welcome to the channel. He took me around the corner and stopped in front of door 13. It looked old, the paint on the door was chipping away, and the brass knob seemed to be turning in horrible patina. I took out my key and slid it into the lock and turned it. A series of locks began opening from the other side of the door. When the last lock finally clicked, the door hinged itself slightly open. It startled both of us a little. "Is it supposed to do that?" Corvus asked me. "I don't know," I yelled at him. He motioned his hand forward as if telling me to go in first. I looked at him and rolled my eyes. Reluctantly, I went in. Prying the door open, I stepped inside. It was dark and dusty, and I could barely see anything at all. Corvus followed behind me and stuck close to me. Once we were both inside, the door slammed closed. Both of us were in complete darkness. Corvus made a closed fist and recited a spell. "Illuminate," he whispered and opened his hand. His palm danced in his palm danced a tiny flame big enough for us to look around. I turned around trying to find a light switch. On the wall near the door was a switch. "Corvus, there." I pointed to the switch. Corvus walked to the switch and flipped it. Light filled the entire room. I was expecting a dark dungeon, maybe with some bats thrown in for good measure. Instead, was a 1960s American household. Shag carpet, and practically modern white furniture, and a giant record player. It looked like I was standing in an episode of Mad Men. "Whoa, nice place," Corvus said, admiring the surroundings. "It's technically my father's," I said back, still looking around in wonder. "Well, you had good taste then," he said as he flopped himself on the couch. I looked at him, wondering why he was sitting on the couch. "I think I would like to lay down, please." He said nothing and just stared at me. After a moment of awkward silence, I spoke again. "I would like to be alone, please." This is awkward, but how can I put it? You can't. Not right now, anyway," he said, sitting up and scratching the back of his head. "So how long am I stuck with you?" I asked begrudgingly. "Until after your first semester. It's part of being a familiar in the program." I failed a class, and I took the extra credit being someone's familiar. It's only to help first-time students. I go where you go, obviously not everywhere. You will have your privacies needed, but I do have to stay with you here," he said. Corvus got up from the couch and brushed off his black ripped jeans. "You don't have to worry about me either. I usually..." Sorry. Messed that up. "You don't have to worry about me either. I usually don't date girls," he said, walking by me and heading into the kitchen. He opened the fridge, bending over to see if there was anything to eat. "So mostly guys then?" I asked. He leaned back, putting his hand on his hips. "Mostly," he replied. "You know, I could eat something too," I said, smiling. "All right, we'll order in." He whipped out his phone from his pocket and opened up the Postmates app. "You guys have Postmates here?" I asked curiously. "Of course we do. We aren't completely uncivilized." He scrolled until he got to a Mexican restaurant. "Los Chupacabras has the best tacos," he said excitedly. "Tacos are my favorite," I said, smiling shyly. "No way, me too. I knew we would be friends," he said and continued ordering the food. Corvus was the first friend I had made out of high school. Though I knew he was required to be with me at all times, I never felt like he hated it or me. That maybe he was almost as excited as I was to make a new friend. "Okay, and placed." He flipped his phone over, and near instantly we heard a doorbell ring. "It's here," he said as he walked to the door and opened it. When he opened the door, there was a witch floating on a broom. He signed for the food and she flew away. "That was fast," I said surprised. "Yeah, I paid a little extra for portal delivery. No biggie, though. I think we're both starving," he said as he handed me the food. I went back to the kitchen and opened up all of the cabinets, looking for plates, cups, and cutlery. The bag felt kind of heavy as I set it down on the coffee table. "Yeah, I got us some cerveza," he said, taking it out of the bag. I looked at him blankly. Wait. I looked at him blankly. What? You're old, right? Old? I yelled at him. I'm only 26, I continued. Universe bless you. I hope I never get to that age, he said, laughing. And how old are you? I asked. I'm a beautiful, vibrant... I'm a beautiful and vibrant 19, he said, flipping his hair. I ripped the beer from his hand. Then I guess you can't have this then, I said, making fun of him. That's not fair. I guess I'll eat your tacos then, he said, grabbing the tacos from the bag. I'm just kidding. Here, I said, laughing and tossing the beer bottle back at him. He threw his hand up and stopped the bottle from hitting him. For a brief moment, I completely forgot that he could also use magic. I sat down next to him and indulged in the taco and beer bonanza. So, you got a boyfriend? He asked in between bites of his taco. Used to. I've been my own... What? Val, what did we write here? Past Val, what did we write? Used to, but I've been doing my own thing for a while now. You? Too many to count. Most wizards can't help themselves and tend to be more promiscuous than your average human male, he said with a mouthful. We talked and enjoyed more tacos. It was reminiscent of the slumber parties I used to have as a teenager. Before either of us knew it, it was already 11 at night. I leaned back and cradled my stomach. I think I have a food baby I ate so much, I said with a happy expression. Be careful, food babies are very real in this world, he said seriously. Suddenly we both burst out laughing because he knew he was joking. Because I knew he was joking. I reached up and stretched my back. I think I'm going to get some sleep now, I said to Corvus, getting up off the floor. Thanks again for dinner, I said to him before turning to my room. There was only one bedroom in the apartment. The bed was made out of... Oh, doctor. Thank you for the hydrate. All of a sudden I heard pussy. The bed was made and looked like it had never been slept in. I slid my shoes off and just laid on top of the bedding. As I stared up at the ceiling, I could hear Corvus rinsing plates and throwing his trash in the bin. It was weird having a roommate, but now I had one that could turn into a bird. I rolled over and looked at the white curtains blanketing the window. Most of the lights on the campus had been turned off except a few. The ones that remained gave a soft glow through my window. I closed my eyes and got some much needed rest. Alright, this chapter is called Whitlock Emporium. And, yeah. Mia, Corvus yelled, shaking me awake. What, Corvus? This letter came from you along with this. He handed me the letter and a small envelope. I began to read the letter out loud. Mia, along with your scholarship, you have been granted the allowance of $1,000 a week for supplies and expenses. Use this credit card to charge it directly to your account. Signed, Academic Advisor Allie Fellows. I opened the mini envelope and pulled out the credit card. It was heavy and seemed to be made out of gold. $1,000 a week is way more than I ever was making at my job, I said. Be careful. Things tend to be more expensive in this world, which is why I go to the human mall to buy my makeup and face creams, he said, touching his face. There was a note on the back of the card. P.S. Use this to buy something nice. See you at the career fair tonight. We're going to the career fair, huh? Corvus asked. Midnight, hi. Yes, seems like it might be a good idea to learn about what kind of jobs you can work towards, I said. You sound like a brochure. Fine, but I get to pick out what you wear. I can't have my host looking like hot trash. Hey, I yelled at him. I'm not saying that you do. I'm just saying that we can do better, girl, he said. I didn't have anything new to wear, so I just slid my shoes back on and walked out to the living room. Corvus looked up at me from the couch. Oh, you're just gonna listen? Alright, no worries. That's the whole point, is we're just here to chill. Hello, hey, Hype. Hi, how's it going? Where was I? You're wearing the same thing as yesterday? He asked, looking confused. I wasn't able to bring anything before. I just showed up here, I said, embarrassed. He sighed as he got off the couch and walked over to me. You are so lucky I keep extra on hand at all times. He twirled his finger around and my clothes disappeared from my body. In their place were brand new clothes, black and white striped pants, along with a long sleeve, low cut sweater, black boots, and a black wide brimmed hat. That's good. That's good. I'm glad that you're having a better day. There, now you look like a witch, he said. Yeah, maybe one from the movie The Craft, I said. The what? He asked. Never mind, I said, rolling my eyes. We hurried out and made sure not to forget my new credit card. Corvus knew of a clothing store run by the students. They wouldn't have the best selection, but it would be a lot cheaper. It didn't take too long to get there, only about a 20-minute walk. We probably would have gotten there sooner if Corvus didn't stop to get coffee. Yeah, I'm feeling the same way at midnight. My math class is getting harder and it's getting frustrating for me. I mean, that's pretty cool, though. I'm sorry. I did not know it was going to take that long, Corvus said as we walked up to the shop. It reminded me of the ones you'd see in a small town strip mall with some mannequins half dressed in the windows. Inside so dark you have to go in to see what they sold. I looked up at the sign that said Whitlock Emporium. Shall we? I said, motioning at the door. Inside, the walls were covered in thick dust. Floor to ceiling was covered in clothes and eclectic junk. There was just a pathway narrow enough to walk through to get to the counter. I stepped carefully over piles of clothes and stuff you'd find at a garage sale. We got up to the counter and noticed a small woman wearing glasses sitting on a stool. Hello, welcome to Whitlock Emporium. How can I help you? She asked. Her voice wasn't strong. Instead, it was very quiet and weak. So quiet you could barely hear her speaking. Hi, we're going to the career fair tonight. And we need to find my host Mia here something nice, Corvus said. Oh yes, first time? She asked me. I nodded my head yes. I'm assuming the attire is the same. Semi-formal, white, for freshmen? She asked Corvus. Yes, he replied. I mean, that's dope. That's awesome. That's awesome, Hype. Happy for you. The small woman left to go in her back stock room. Wait, semi-formal? What kind of career fair is semi-formal? I asked. Well, it's more of a ceremony. You will have the opportunity to look into different careers, but at the end of the night, you must sign a declaration of which career path you'd like to follow. If you're lucky, you'll have one of the new mentors request to mentor you personally. Most people don't get picked, however, so don't be surprised if you don't. Usually mentors take the best of the best. We don't even know if you can ever spellcast properly. But no pressure. If you change your mind, you can just attend the career ceremony the following year and pick something else, Corvus said. Yeah, so I wrote this one. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity to read and do this because, you know, I'm reading mine. The girl behind the counter came back with a single box. She blew the dust off of it and placed it on the counter in front of us. I had to guess your size, but this should fit, she squeaked. She lifted the cover off the box and unwrapped the tissue surrounding the clothing. She lifted up the dress and tossed it in the air. It hung in midair and spread out as if someone was wearing it. It was long, flowy, and made out of tons of chiffon. Suddenly, a veil raised over the top of it. A wedding dress? I said, looking at the woman. I thought it might look pretty on you, she said, unsure of how to react. Suddenly, she twisted her hand, and the dress flew towards me. I could feel myself sliding it on. Once it was on, I turned myself around to see the bottom twirl. What do you think? I asked Corvus. If I was into girls, I would have already asked you for your number, he said, smiling. Stop it, I said seriously. No, seriously, Mia, you look bangin'. They might not know who the Phoenix is, but they will after they see you. The Phoenix? The person who gets the scholarship, they tend to be known as the Phoenix. I turned around and looked at the mousy woman, waiting to see my reaction. Okay, we'll take it, I said. Yeah, Wattpad is what I use. I love Wattpad, and it's a great site, and it's free. She snapped her fingers, and the dress was no longer on my body, but back in the box, completely wrapped. Alright, that'll be $350, she said, punching the numbers into the register. $350 for a hand-me-down dress? I asked. It's actually on sale too, she said happily. I reached in my back pocket and pulled out my new credit card. I guess you were right about stuff being expensive here, I sighed. The girl charged my card and handed it back to me. Approved. Thanks so much. Where would you like it delivered? She asked. I told her my address and we finished up inside the store. We waved goodbye to the mousy woman at the shop and exited. As we left, we heard a girl yell out, Corvus? So now we have one of our antagonists here, Amelia. We both turned to look at a girl wearing designer brand clothes, of course in all black. It is you. Where have you been? She looked at me and then quickly to Corvus. Amelia, hi. I've been busy lately, he said awkwardly. Doing what? Or better question, doing who? Certainly not her. She's definitely not your type, she said, eyeing me up and down. I felt slightly embarrassed. No, of course not. She's my cousin from out of town. She's visiting the college, he said, trying to come up with any lie. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So are you down for extracurriculars later? Maybe after the career ceremony? She asked him seductively. Oh, I can't actually. I'm volunteering there tonight. His eyes darted back and forth between me and Amelia. Shame. Well then, I'll see you there, she said, bubbly and giggly. Oh, thank you for the posture check. Where was I? Where was I? Where was I? Why? You're not a first year. Don't seem so disappointed, Corvus. I'm changing careers, so I'll be a part of the ceremony, she said, rocking back on her heels. Why change? You're at the top of your bracket, he asked. 2 words. Koji Blackburn, she said, smiling. He is coming back to mentor? Corvus asked. Uh-huh. Heard it through the grapevine. The universe knows how much I'd want to be mentored by him, she said in a sexual way. Who's that? I asked. Amelia looked at me flabbergasted. Wow, your cousin must be from way out of town, she said condescendingly. Yeah, hope it works out for you, though. We really need to get going, Corvus said, grabbing me by the arm and trying to walk away. You wouldn't be trying to blow me off, would you, Corvus? Yeah, that's the point. That's the idea. She had electricity surrounding her. The wind picked up and the day grew darker. No, of course not. I already promised my cousin I was taking her to lunch, he said, hoping she would accept his answer. Her demeanor changed as she walked over to us. The daylight was bright again. Okay, see you tonight then. Bye, she said as she walked into Whitlock Emporium. Corvus grabbed my arm and he quickened our pace to get away from her. Ow, Corvus, you're hurting me, I said to him. He kept looking behind him as if something or someone might be chasing him. He looked down and realized he was holding on too hard. Holding on too hard. I should have said that. Oh, sorry, I just want to get out of there, he said nervously. Who was she anyway? Amelia Norfolk. She's been at the top of her class every year since she's been in witching school. She also happens to be incredibly popular and could crush your reputation like it never even existed. We used to fool around a bit. I thought you were popular, I asked. I am, but not like her, he said. After running a few other errands and grabbing some late lunch, we continued back to my apartment, hoping the dress would show up in time. When we arrived, we noticed a lot of the professors living in the complex were all leaving looking dressed up and refined. I guess this is a pretty big deal, I said, opening the door to my apartment, Corvus following behind. Sitting in the middle of the living room was a box containing the dress I tried on earlier, wrapped in a red bow. I untied the bow, and an audio recording started playing. It sounded like an old cassette tape. Thanks again for your purchase from Whitlock Emporium. All sales are final, the voice said. The red ribbon disintegrated near instantly into flames after the recording ended. Corvus looked down at his watch. I didn't even realize what time it was. We need to get you dressed. We need to get you to the ceremony. Corvus ripped open the box and tossed the dress at me. Get dressed. I'll do your hair and makeup. Apprehensively, I slid out of the clothes I was wearing. I knew Corvus was watching me, but I could tell he wasn't being a pervert about it. As quickly as I could, I put the dress on and sat in front of Corvus. All right, little dove. What look do we want to go for? He asked, handing me a mirror. I looked at myself. I just want something simple, I said. Okay, I think I know what you need. From his back pocket, he grabbed a powder puff. Carrying that with you all the time? I asked. course, you never know when a fashion emergency is called for. He lifted the puff and slowly started tapping it all over my face. He was gentle and it did not hurt. It almost felt like a tickle. All right, and done, he said, proud of himself. I grabbed the mirror from him and looked at myself. My eyes widened when I saw myself. My eyes were dark, with a mix of black and grays and whites. Silver glitter to top it all off, making my eyes really pop. I even had eyeliner and fake lashes. My lips were a deep red shade, and it seemed to stay on no matter how much I tried to wipe it away. I said simple, Corvus, I yelled at him. With as big of an event as tonight, you need to stand out. Consider it a power move, he said, standing by his work. He held up a pair of heels that he seemingly grabbed from nowhere. Oh no, I'll wear the dress, I'll wear the makeup. I am not doing heels, I said, crossing my arms over my chest. Fine, I guess it's only fair. I guess I'll let you do your hair too. He sighed disappointingly. I took my hair out of the bun it was in and shook it out. What are you reading for, Dr. Diabetes? I'm doing this for you. I took out my hair and combed through with my fingers and started to French braid it to the side. It only took a few moments because it was a style I did often. There, done, I said, getting up from the couch. It felt weird wearing something so fancy to a community college ceremony, but I knew it must have been pretty important. Almost forgot about myself, Corvus said. He clicked his heels together and turned around in a circle. As he spun, his outfit changed. He was wearing a black sequins blazer and a black button-up shirt. To complete his outfit, he wore tight black pants and black sequins dress shoes. Spiffy, I joked with him. Hey, the Phoenix is familiar, has to look good too. With that, we gathered our belongings and headed toward the career fair. Zanelle, hello, welcome in, welcome to the chat, welcome to the channel. This is the first time you've seen Koji. This is one of our protagonists. This is the love interest, if you will. That's what he looks like. As we walked towards the gymnasium, I noticed a lot of other people dressed up too. All of the younger people seemed to be dressed in white and everyone else in black. Corvus linked arms with me, proud of his fine work. We approached the door and saw Allie, my academic advisor, standing with a clipboard. Mia, I'm so glad that you came. Each table that you come across will give you an insight into different careers and professions. Should you find one interesting, they will present you with a coin. Hold on to that coin for the ceremony. Should a mentor pick you, they will present you with a ring with that profession's insignia. Want to change your career? Simply bring back the ring or coin and pick again the following year, she said, very giggly. Thanks, I said, and Corvus and I walked into the gym. Have fun, Allie shouted from behind us. Corvus put up his hand to acknowledge that we heard her, and he looked at me and said, Where do you want to start? I looked around at the rows of tables and booths. For all intents and purposes, it looked like a normal career fair. I guess we'll start over here, I said, and we went to the left. There were all kinds of career paths to choose from: bankers, insurance, teachers, and even performers. Miss, you look like you could be a candy maker, said a little creature to me. A little creature said to me. I walked closer to the booth. Sitting in a chair was something I've never seen before. It was small, had wings, and terrifyingly large teeth. I started to walk over when Corvus suddenly grabbed my hand to stop me. Trust me, you don't want to go over there, he said, whispering to me. Why? Those are what people in your world call tooth fairies. They're responsible for every cavity you've ever had, plus they slowly steal all your teeth from you. Oh, I said, fascinated. He quickly moved me along. As we were passing by more booths, I saw something that caught my eye. Sitting at a table was a man wearing a ring. It was gold and had a ruby in the center of it. Around the ruby was inscribed in Latin, Officium Ministeri Animo. Translated, it means duty, service, and courage. There's only one other ring I've ever seen similar to that. It was the one my mother always wore. She told me it belonged to my father. Without question, I walked over to the booth. It almost startled the man sitting there how fast I approached him. Where did you get that ring? I asked, eagerly awaiting to see what he would say. It's my career ring, he said, showing it to me. My dad had a ring like that. I said, looking at the way it sparkled. Was your dad a detective? He asked. I was told he was a professor. Most become professors after being on the force for a while. What was his name? See, this is where I messed up. Blackwood. I need to go back and fix that. Daniel Blackwood? Danny, he said in surprise and continued. Danny was a legend. He put a lot of bad people away. Shame what happened though. Sorry, by the way, he said. It's okay. I didn't really know him, I said sadly. Well, if you're interested, I'm sure my partner would love to talk to you for a moment. Here, take a coin. Should you decide to choose this career, there will be a door open when you graduate, he said, handing me a coin with the same insignia as the ring. I reached out and grabbed it from him. Thanks. Behind us, I heard some heels clacking headed in our direction. We both turned around to see that it was Amelia, that Amelia was also wanting to choose to be a detective as well. Corvus, good to see you again. And who's this? She asked. She didn't even realize that she had already met me earlier. I guess I really must look completely different. This is Mia. She's the one with the Phoenix Scholarship, Corvus said. Her? She said, putting her hand on her hip. Well, no matter. I see you're also trying to be mentored by Koji. Good luck, hun. There would be no reason he'd ever mentor someone like you. Geez, harsh much? Not everyone is as thirsty as you are, Amelia, Corvus said, not even thinking. He turned around and looked at me. Oh, universe, what did I just say? He said, sounding scared. Corvus, it's not like you to be snippy with me. Oh, I see what's going on here. You're her familiar, aren't you? Amelia asked and proceeded to bend over laughing. Corvus seemed embarrassed and looked around to see if anyone else was looking. Corvus Crawford, I never thought in a million years you'd ever speak to me like that. You really are her familiar, aren't you? She asked, mouth wide open in shock. He looked at me with sad eyes. Yes, he said. Amelia burst out laughing and everyone around us started looking. Wow, Corvus, doing so bad you needed to become a familiar? That's pretty low, even for you. I could see how embarrassed Corvus was getting. It filled me up with anger. Without even knowing, my eyes were glowing bright red. Stop laughing at him, I said to Amelia in a threatening tone. She noticed the color of my eyes changing. You think I'm scared of you elemental wielders? She asked, not scared at all. Corvus suddenly stepped in between us. We're sorry, Amelia. We would like to apologize for any inconveniences we have caused you. Corvus? I started to say. Not now, Mia, he said, turning around to quiet me down. Amelia became calmer. Why am I getting all worked up for anyway? I have to look my best for when Koji picks me as his protege, she said, smoothing out her short skirt. Amelia walked in between Corvus and me and walked over to the detective's table. She leaned down to ask the detective a question. Can I have a coin, please? She asked with a smile, leaning down just enough for him to see her cleavage. The detective sat up a bit. Are you sure that's what you want? It's hard work, you know, he said. She noticed the coin jiggling in his lapel pocket and she reached in to grab one. I'll just be taking one now, she said, swiftly grabbing the coin. Defeated, the man gave up and allowed her to take it. Amelia walked back over to me, holding the coin to her face. You will never be good enough, she said viciously. She flipped her hair as she walked away, and just then an announcement was heard over the crowd. Attention students, please make your final selections and join us on stage in 10 minutes to begin the ceremony, said Lady Regalia. I had nearly forgotten she taught charms here at the college. Is there any other booths you wanted to speak to? Corvus asked me. My father never told us he used to be a detective. There must be a reason why he kept that secret as well, I said. Do you think it could be related to the accident you were telling me about? He asked. Maybe. I'm sure if I choose this, I could find out the truth, I said. We made our way to the stage area. All you need to do is put your coin in the fire, declare your major, step back, and wait. At the end of the ceremony, a mentor will come out related to that field and present you with a ring if you're lucky enough. Do you have your coin? He asked. I reached into my pocket and took it out to show him. Yep, ring here, I said as I put it back in my pocket. Corvus, who's this Koji guy Amelia kept talking about? Koji Blackburn is the greatest wizard of his time. Graduated top of his class, went right to work with the MDD, or the Magical Defense Department. He's a few years older than you, I believe, smarter than anyone else in the room, and incredibly dangerous. If I was you, I would let Amelia be his protege. From what I was told, he will tear you down and make you change your career path. He is the toughest and worst mentor the school's ever had. Every year he selects a new protege, and most don't last a week with him. From what Corvus told me, he made this guy seem like a terrifying monster. Someone who I didn't even want to be associated with. At that moment, I was hoping not to be picked by him. Go on, Mia, Corvus said, waving me onto the stage. I stood in a line shoulder to shoulder with other fellow students about to participate in the ceremony. Amelia switched places with someone else so she could stand next to me. I want to see the look on your face when Koji picks me, she said, smiling. I don't care, you can have him. I don't want him to pick me, I said, whispering to her. She looked at me with confusion. Lady Regalia walked on the stage, and she was dressed in an all-black outfit from the 20s and a signature hat. Good evening, students and loved ones. Picking our paths is a time-honored tradition for each school year to solidify our bond of career and magic. As some of you know, we will have a few mentors come out afterward and select a single student from their respective fields to mentor. Each mentor also has the right to pass on available students for any reason and does not have to take a protege. With that, students, let's begin the ceremony by tossing our coins into the fire, she spoke. A black cauldron was wheeled out on stage in front of us. Lady Regalia raised her hands up and a large fire erupted from inside the cauldron. Starting at one end, each student walked up to the cauldron and dropped their coin into the fire. Becky Green and I choose primary teacher, the girl said as she dropped her coin into the pot. The fire instantly turned a bright blue color and the audience clapped. It was my turn next. I reached in my pocket to get the coin. I looked down as if I could not feel it anymore. I turned my pocket inside and out to make sure it wasn't stuck to a wedge somewhere. Mia, darling, it's your turn, Lady Regalia whispered to me. I started to panic as the coin was no longer in my pocket. Amelia leaned over to me. What's the matter? Can't find your coin, can you? Oh well, too bad for you, she said, smiling. Lady Regalia got back on the microphone. Apparently, our little phoenix has misplaced her coin. I guess we must move. She was cut off mid-sentence. Just then, a tall, slender man with white silvery hair emerged from the side of the stage. I believe you dropped this, he said, holding my coin between his long fingers. He walked over to me and placed it in my hands. I looked up at his face and noticed his sunglasses. He looked like the same guy I ran into on my way to work a few days ago. Hey, I know you, I said curiously. He looked down at me over his sunglasses. We might have bumped into each other once before, he said, smiling slyly. Something about him made me feel uneasy. Amelia looked up, shocked as her plan had failed. Mia, put the coin in, darling, Lady Regalia said. I stepped up and hovered my hand over the flames. Mia Hartley and I choose the MDD. I said and dropped the coin. When it hit, the fire turned bright red, and the flames twisted and morphed into a dragon of fire. It roared and turned around to face Amelia. Baring its flaming teeth, it moved towards her as if it was going to eat her. She backed up in fear, covering her face with her hands. The audience gasped as they all thought something bad was going to happen to Amelia. Just as the flaming dragon was about to consume her, she yelled out in fear, but it had completely vanished. The flames crawled back into the cauldron like nothing happened. Amelia had fallen down due to the shock. Suddenly, the crowd uproared with an applause and started chanting, "Phoenix, Phoenix." I just politely smiled and walked over to Amelia, offering my hand to help her up. She rolled her eyes and sighed, but took my hand anyway. "You all right?" I asked. "Fine," she said. I pulled her up to her feet, and then the man with the white hair spoke to the audience. "I have decided to name my protege," he said loudly. Lady Regalia turned to address him. "But the students haven't finished declaring their majors, Koji dear," she said. "Koji," I whispered to myself. "This was the detective Corvus warned me about." He continued speaking. "As much as I am a stickler for procedure and the rules, I feel like it must be done now based off of what I've just witnessed," he said, addressing the crowd. He turned towards Amelia and me and walked over to us. He reached into his pocket and pulled out an MDD ring, the same as my father's. "I, Koji Blackburn, hereby accept the responsibilities of being a mentor and all the activities associated with mentoring my protege. Will you, Mia, accept my invitation to be mine?" he asked me. I looked up into his bright blue eyes. They were serious and they were entrancing. I looked at him for a moment and I forgot about everything Corvus warned me about. When I looked into his eyes deeply, I did not see a monster. There was a kindness there that I could not explain. Without rational thought, I continued to look into his eyes and said, "I accept." He took the ring and helped slide it onto my finger and smiled. "Her? She doesn't even know what her magic is yet, or if she can even use magic," Amelia said to Koji. He fiercely turned his eyes in her direction, and it was enough to make her quiver a little. "Amelia Norfolk, huh? I've heard a lot about you, and it seemed to all be true," he said, approaching her closely. He leaned down and whispered into her ear. "Maybe next time you shouldn't try to steal other people's coins," he said. Her eyes widened, and she turned away from him in embarrassment. Koji turned back to me. "Ready?" he asked. "Umbra, hey, how's it going?" I nodded my head and he led me to the front of the stage. Lady Regalia announced us. "Koji Blackburn and his protege, our Phoenix, Mia Hartley," she said triumphantly. The crowd applauded and we were excited, and when we exited the stage together. He put his hand on my lower back and I shuddered a bit. He felt me shudder and then took his hand away quickly. "Oh, you'll be fine. I believe in you, Umbra." "Are you all right, Mia?" he asked me sincerely. I stopped in my tracks and looked at him. We were behind the stage where no one could see us. Oh God. The pufferfish. The pufferfish. Where no one could see us. "Why were you there that day?" I asked. Aye, funny. "Why were you there that day?" I asked. "What do you mean?" he replied. "You don't need to play dumb with me, dude. I know how smart you are. Just tell me why," I asked. "Dude," he said, caught off guard by my statement. "Wow, you come here to play the pufferfish and that's all. That's all you come here for." "I was there to mediate the situation and make sure you got to where you needed to be and when," he said, crossing his arms over his chest. Why? I asked bluntly. Important people wanted to make sure you continued your father's legacy and to make sure your magic didn't die. Why? You sure do ask a lot of questions, he joked. Koji was it? I asked. Yes, that's right. He said, what do you want with me? I asked out of desperation. He uncrossed his arms and put one hand in his pocket. Me? He asked seductively. He walked towards me and leaned slightly down, his face inches from mine. Instead of turning away, I stood my ground, staring into his eyes beyond his sunglasses. He placed his other hand above my head to leaning closer. What I want with you is for you to stop asking so many questions, he whispered in my ear. I pushed him away from me and sighed angrily. He laughed and continued talking. Honestly, I feel like with your father's history on the force and you being the Phoenix, you could have a lot of untapped potential, he said. The greatest wizard of his generation. You're not what I was expecting at all, I said angrily. Maybe you should get to know me before you judge me, he said back. You made that flame dragon attack Amelia. She could have gotten hurt, I said, yelling at him. I hate to burst your bubble there, sweetheart, but I had nothing to do with that dragon. My face softened. What? I asked, confused. He came closer to me again. It wasn't me, it was you. How can that be? I asked. Well, it seems like your magic is triggered by your emotions. You conjured that dragon from the flames. I actually have never come across your kind of magic before, he said. He reached out and touched my hair as I started blushing. Fascinating, he said. He plucked a cherry blossom from my hair as I was growing them. He had it in his hands and lifted it to his nose to smell it. He placed it in my hands. Mia, I'm just asking for you to trust me. You have a few days before your classes start tomorrow, and I would like to train you a little if that would be okay. If you'd be okay with that, he asked. I shook my head yes and heard someone shouting my name. It was Corvus. He came running in from the side door behind the stage. Mia! Corvus, hey. Koji, good to see you again, Corvus said. Koji turned to him. Staying out of trouble, I hope, he said to Corvus. Funny you should mention that. I'm Mia's familiar now because of you. Are you now? Well then, this is going to be interesting, Koji said. Mia, tomorrow around noon, meet me at the swimming pool, okay? Koji said to me. Sure, I said. Corvus, I'm sure I'll see you there as well, Koji said, laughing to himself. Sure will, he said sarcastically. I sure will. There we go, that's better. I will take my leave then. Good night, Mia, he said, slightly bowing to me. Corvus and I watched him as he left in a cloud of smoke. Come on, Mia, let's go party, Corvus said, interlocking arms with me as we walked out of the backstage door. The ceremony came to a close, and as the other mentors chose their proteges. Well, that was a hard one to say. Corvus and I went back to my apartment to celebrate, but I couldn't shake the feeling I had. Koji knew a lot more than he was leading me to believe. After the ceremony, Lady Regalia met Koji outside behind the gym where no one ever went. She walked over to him coyly. Good job, Koji, dear. We are one step closer in our plan, she said, running a finger down his chest. Wow. It's a big difference. Koji was back against the brick wall, left leg up to support him. You mean your plan, he said, scoffing at her. Don't try to put the blame on me, mister. You need her just as much as I do. Don't you ever forget that. Oh, and brilliant show with that fire dragon. It was genius, she said. That wasn't me. It was all her, Koji said, getting off the wall. Really? How interesting. She trailed off, lost in her thoughts. Koji took a cigarette from his pocket and lit it. He put it to his thin lips and took a long drag. Wow, Koji. Really trying to shorten that little lifespan you have left, she asked, laughing. If all goes well, it won't matter anyway, he said, taking another puff and tossing the cigarette on the ground, putting it out with the bottom of his shoe. Koji walked past Lady Regalia and made his way over to his partner. Oh, and Koji, dear, the more she learns, the better she'll taste, she said, licking the perimeter of her lips, careful not to smudge her lipstick. He continued walking to his partner, who was perched next to Koji's car. Hey, Koji, I'm glad you picked Mia. That other girl was so rude and bitchy, Koji's partner said to him. Tim, because of this mentorship, I'll need a short break from my cases, as well as being your partner, he said to him gently. Understood, boss, Tim said back. Can I ask, are you going to take this one seriously? She's Danny's kid. I don't want to see you do what you've done to the last 5 or so kids. Tim, time. I gotta fix that. Time questioned. Tim questioned. As much as I've learned and accomplished in such little time, I just want to pass on that knowledge to her. If anyone deserves my attention, it's her, he said, telling the truth. Meanwhile, back in my apartment, Corvus ordered us pizza and wings. Let me see, he said, lifting my hand to his face to see my new ring. He gawked and stared at the ring and the way it shined in the light. Never in the history of the school has a first-year Phoenix ever been mentored. That's a huge deal, Corvus said, putting my hand down. He grabbed a slice of pizza and started eating. I sat on the couch watching him. So what did you think of Koji, huh? Pretty handsome, he asked, raising an eyebrow. I sighed, thinking about Koji. I mean, he is very handsome. But Corvus, I've met him before. Like, before I came here, I said, thinking back to the time I ran into him. Corvus took a sip of some soda and continued to question me. Oh yeah, when? He asked, grabbing another slice of pizza. Before I came here, I ran into him, literally, on my way to work. I said, Really, you sure it was him? I couldn't forget his piercing eyes if I wanted to. But that's not the weird part. I think I remember seeing him when I was really little. With my dad. He might have been a little younger, but I'm sure it was him. Pretty sure it was him. It could have been. Time moves differently here. 1 year here can be multiple in your human world, he said. If it was him, then it's too coincidental, don't you think? I'll give it to you. It's odd. However, here in the witching world, there are no such things as coincidences. His words weighed heavy on my mind all night. Could Koji possibly know what happened to my father? He's incredibly intelligent, so I knew the only way I'd be able to get the information I needed would be to win his trust. That night I tossed and turned, unable to sleep right. Before I knew it, the alarm clock on my phone started blaring for me to move. Reluctantly, I got up and dressed. I borrowed a swimsuit from Corvus, as I did not have one, ready to meet Koji Blackburn at our college's pool. I don't know. Should we do one more chapter? Or is that going to be it? It's kind of a long chapter. Probably none. Probably not going to do that. We'll probably just end up talking for a little while. There. Now we'll just chill out and talk for a little while. I hope everyone's having a great day so far. Oh, so many emails. Jeez. So, if you did end up liking this, make sure that you tell me that you did on like Twitter or Discord or whatever, so that way I know that you liked it, and then we could do some more, and I could maybe just continue the story. I call it story time or something. Storytime ASMR. I like this. This was fun. It's hard not being able to talk above a certain volume, though. That is the hardest part about this, is not being able to talk at a normal volume. I would say that's probably the hardest part. It's just not being able to talk at a normal volume. Oh gosh, what is happening? Well, good. I'm glad that you did enjoy that. Or this, I should say. Why is there 19 messages in this thread? Why? For the love of God, why is there 19 messages? So tonight, I'm going to be playing. Let me go to my schedule actually, and I can tell you exactly what I'm going to be playing. So it says that I'm playing CSGO. That's a lie. I'm pretty sure we're playing Halo Infinite tonight. Yeah, we're not playing CSGO. K Helsing fucked up. He fucked up his schedule, so we're gonna probably end up playing CSGO another night, and tonight we are playing Halo Infinite. I'm pretty sure we're playing Halo Infinite. Like, I'm 95% sure. And then Thursday, I'm gonna have a Phasmophobia collab, or we're gonna do Forewarned. I think Kay's trying to convince everybody to do Forewarned, and I don't know if I want to do that because that one seems really genuinely scary as opposed to Phasmo, which seems kind of scary. So that's what I got going on. So yeah, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit me. Make sure you follow me here on Twitch. I stream every single day, and then you can also follow me on my Discord and my Twitter to stay up to date with what I'm doing. And if you enjoyed this ASMR stream, make sure that you let me know that you did, so that way I know to do it again if you did like it. I'm gonna go get some lunch. Probably some Mickey D's nuts. Can't help myself, I'm sorry. But yeah, I'm gonna go get some lunch, start my homework, and then I will be back on at 8 p.m. Eastern tonight at a normal volume, playing probably Halo Infinite or other game. I don't know. My friends have no idea. I don't know what I'm doing. But definitely come back here at 8 p.m. Eastern. That's when I'll be here. So I hope you guys have the great rest of your day. Take care. Stay safe. Have a great night, everybody. Have a great day, everybody.